Well, well, well. In the past week, we have seen quite the reversal on the defund the police stance. We first saw it in New York. Now we're seeing it in Minneapolis, and we're going to continue to see it in cities across the country. At this point, we can all be sure of that. If you are tuning in from a city that had their police department defunded, let us know. City, state, and let us know where you're tuning in from in this great nation, city and state. And if you're tuning in from outside of this great nation, let us know. We always like to get your insight and your input. Let us know how things are going in your region of the world. So now we're seeing New York City first. People were up in arms. Residents were yelling, screaming, demanding more police on the subways after some crazy person started stabbing people on the subway, injuring people. It was a horrific scene. There's many accounts of people who were on the subway when this person was committing these acts, and it sounded pretty traumatic. Now, anyone who's ever ridden the New York City subway will tell you that on a normal day, riding the subway in New York City is a scary situation. Now you take away the police officers that are typically in the subway stations and sometimes even on the trains, and you have a situation which is beyond scary. It's terrifying. Well, with the police department budget being cut by $1 billion, supported by Mayor Bill de Blasio, or whatever you want to call him, and of course Governor Cuomo, the city is in a complete state of disarray. Now, this is not my opinion. You can ask anyone that currently lives in New York City or has recently fled New York City. And when I say fled New York City, I don't say that lightly. People are fleeing New York City. It is that dangerous. It is that terrible. It is that horrific. But don't take my word for it. Ask people that live in New York City or fled, or come to New York City for yourself and check it out. Ride the subway. Anyhow, vicious attack in the subway, which there are attacks in the subway all the time. And it just has boiled over where now some of the people who were screaming to defund the police and supported the $1 billion budget cut to the NYPD are now flipping over, and they're saying, this is out of control, crime is out of control, violence is out of control, we need more cops. I don't know what these people thought would happen. I mean, it was a cool thing. That was a cool hashtag last year, right? Defund the police. Someone wrote that on a piece of poster board and held it up somewhere, and it caught on, right? And that was it. Defund the police. All right. Cut their budget, cut the officers, and of course, less officers, and some officers just chose to leave because of all the craziness. And what did you end up with? What did you think you were going to end up with? Less crime? Well, no. Now we shift to Minneapolis. Minneapolis City Council voted to not only defund the police, but disband the Minneapolis Police Department. That was on the table. And they were going to replace the Minneapolis Police Department with a kinder, softer, gentler community policing or community public free hugs squad of some kind, not police. And now, after they lost countless officers. Some were cut, many left because of the environment, but they were down in manpower quite a bit. And defund the police was the thing in Minneapolis. First, a few weeks ago, the business owners in some of these cities, Minneapolis, Portland, all banded together and are filing a class action type lawsuit against the city for lack of response to the violent protesters, looters, and arsonists that were burning their businesses down. They said that they didn't respond accordingly, and it led to them losing their businesses. So now they're suing. So people who were, breaking windows, going into stores, looting them, destroying them, lighting them on fire, and there was just either not enough manpower, or they were being told, the police were being told to stand down. Oh, you can't hurt these protesters. They're just, releasing their inner stress. Well, now all the business owners, all of a sudden, many of them are black folks, black business owners, are now suing the cities. But now in Minneapolis, it goes one step further. Now, the residents of Minneapolis went to the city, and this is all confirmed. I've talked to people from Minneapolis. Black people, Hispanic people, you name it. And they are at the point where they do not even want to go outside. The crime and the violence is so bad that they, once again, have flipped from defund the police, disband the police, replace them with a soft, fuzzy social worker squadron, to now they are demanding more cops. And the city is looking to bring on more cops. And they just asked for approval of $6.4 million. $6.4 million. Mind you, this is a place that approved defunding the police and actually disbanding the police department. Disbanding, getting rid of it. It was on the table. You can Google it, look it up. I'm not making this up. They were voting to disband the police department. Now, they're asking for $6.4 million from the same people that they hurt. These business owners that lost their businesses, these people who are suffering from crime and violence, who were at the city council meeting. I heard it. I talked to some of the people that were screaming, we need more cops in our neighborhoods. The crime is out of control. We can't even send our kids outside. We need more cops. Now they're asking for $6.4 million to hire more cops. What did they think was going to happen? What did they think was going to happen when they voted to defund the police and disband the police department? Once again, did they think crime was going to go down there? And what people don't understand is that the people who are suffering the most are the people that those who were looking to call for defunding the police were trying to support. So these people were there, flown in, bussed in from wherever, holding their signs, defund the police. Black Lives Matter. But when the police are defunded, the majority of the people who are hurting and suffer are black people. But they don't want to report that. They don't want to tell you that. They don't want to speak that, because that obviously looks bad. Black Lives Matter, defund the police. The police get defunded and the black murder rate is skyrocketing in these cities. Skyrocketing. Look at New York. Look at Chicago. Look at Minneapolis. Look at what is happening to black people in these communities. The murder rate is skyrocketing. The violent crime rate is skyrocketing. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up. So the people who are suffering most are the people that these folks were trying to help. Black Lives Matter. So what was it truly all about? Was it ever about black lives? Because if you want to hurt the police and say defund the police, and that leads to less police and more violence in your neighborhood to the point where you can't even send your children outside, who wins? Who won there? I have a question for all of you. Any of you living in these cities that dealt with the burning, the looting, the murdering, what has Black Lives Matter done in your city to make your city a better place to live? I'm asking anyone out there. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian. I'm asking you wholeheartedly. What has Black Lives Matter done throughout this whole thing to make where you live a better, safer, more prosperous place to live? Because I have spoken to people of color from across this country. Through my business, I have the luxury of doing that. We talk to police officers. I talk to civilians. What has Black Lives Matter done in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state, to improve the quality of life for black people substantially? I've talked to people all over the place, and no one can give me anything of substance that they have done. Now, I don't want to go down the political road, but we do know that millions and millions of dollars that went toward Black Lives Matter ultimately was funneled directly to the Democratic Party. And that's fine, okay? Fine. A lot of people have a problem with that. They get all bent out of shape because the politics of it. Fine. If Black Lives Matter wanted to raise money and give money to the Democratic Party, fine. Okay. Where is the money for these black communities to make the communities better, safer? Where are the programs funded by Black Lives Matter to make it safer for black children to play in the street? I don't know. I've not spoken to a single person, and I'm asking anyone here to comment. Give me the name of your city. Give me the name of the program that was funded by Black Lives Matter to maybe bring in better communication between young black kids in the city and the police department. Some kind of educational program, something. Maybe a program to better educate the cops in that city. I'd even respect that. Hey, we're Black Lives Matter. We're going to fund a program with the millions and millions of dollars we've raised, and we're going to bring in black leaders to speak to the police about some of the plight of the black people in your community, and maybe why they think a certain way, and maybe why they view you a certain way. And we're going to bring this program to the law enforcement in this city. And don't worry, the police department doesn't need to pay for it. It's going to be funded by Black Lives Matter, because we want to reduce the number of young black men and women that are killed at the hands of police. No, I haven't seen a single program. I've asked. Have you? There's an old saying. It takes a village. And what that's based on is when there is an issue in the community or issue with someone in the community, everyone bands together. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's his parents' fault. Well, guess what? If there's a young person in your community and maybe they are from a single parent household, someone else in the community that maybe has both parents, jump in. Someone else in the community that maybe doesn't have kids, jump in. Someone else who's a leader in the community, jump in and help set that young man on the right path. And maybe Black Lives Matter could fund a program like that. There's nothing. There's nothing. That to me is the biggest disgrace. A lot of people ask me, they're like, how do you not put down Black Lives Matter? Listen, I'm someone that tries to stay in the middle. And Black Lives Matter was focused on police violence against people of color. Okay, I get that. But what are you doing to help stop the issue that you claim you're about? You can't just walk around, hold signs, wear shirts, wear masks with Black Lives Matter on it, scream it from the top of your lungs in the street, and then have some people wearing all that garb burn stuff down, riot, loot, and then come around and say, we're a valid organization. If any other organization said, this is what we do, this is what we are focused on, and raised millions and millions of dollars in the name of that cause, yet did nothing to help remedy that concern, the DOJ and the FBI, everyone would be involved to shut down that organization. If I started an organization tomorrow to raise money for some disease and said, this is it, this disease is terrible and we're going after it and we're raising money and we're making a big stink about it, and I subsequently, with my organization, raised millions and millions of dollars to help fight that disease, yet 1 year, 2 years, 3 years later, you come to find that not a single dollar has helped go toward finding the cure for that disease. I'd be in jail. You'd be in jail. Everyone involved would be in jail. So I'm just looking for one. I'm just looking for one thing. What is one thing? So now we're going to see it more. We're going to see more of these cities that voted to defund the police, reduce their police force, had cops quit, had cops retire early, take an early pension, all that stuff. All those cities where the law enforcement was depleted. You're going to see them all coming around. And you're going to see that they're going to now all try to now get more police. You're going to see it. It's happening across the country. That's not my opinion. You could look it up. Many of these cities. The murder rate's up. Violent crime is up. You can't say that it worked. They take politics out of it, take race out of it, take everything out of it. In the cities where the police were defunded, murder is up drastically. Violent crime is up drastically. quality of life is down drastically. Not my opinion. That's all fact-based. All the numbers are out there. If you don't believe the facts and the numbers, well, then you can't even be involved in the conversation. So, what's next? What comes next? Because it didn't work. So what's next? So now we're bringing in more cops, and then you're going to build the police numbers back up. And then what's going to happen? Of course, it's going to be another incident. Someone's going to be fighting with the cops. Someone's going to be resisting arrest, and someone's going to end up dead. And we're going to be back to it. Get rid of all the cops again. Get rid of the cops. Get rid of them. We're going to be back to it. And the cycle will continue. So, I invite people to share their thinking on what's next. And share if your city has had any kind of positive impact as a result directly correlated from BLM. I want to know. I don't know of any. But if you're saying the actions of BLM or them directly has helped your city, please comment here, send a message, whatever. Because people are dying. People of color are dying at a higher rate than before all this happened. So I don't know how anyone who truly says they care about the lives of black people can right now feel good. Right now feel good about what's going on. With the violence and the crime spiking, the murder spiking, I don't know how anyone can feel good. Republican, Democrat, white, black, I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. At the end of the day, people of color are now dying in these cities at a higher rate. How does that stop? How do we put an end to that? Children are dying. Teenagers are being murdered in cold blood in New York, in Chicago. How do we stop that? How does BLM use their millions of dollars to help stop that? It's not the cops doing it. 50 in one weekend, 60 in one weekend, 25 in one night. There was a young boy, 7 years old, not too far, that was shot in the head. I shared this story. Two black men in the street shooting at each other. Stray bullet went, shot this boy. He was playing with toys in front of his house in Philadelphia. There was no support from any group. Black Lives Matter didn't even recognize that was an incident that occurred. And no one was raising money. There was no athletes. There was no celebrities. There was no, with the name on the back of their helmet. Nothing. No one. There was nothing. There was no fundraiser. Nothing. I couldn't believe it. So I started the fundraiser. On my own. Me. I'm a nobody. I started the fundraiser. And I ultimately got in contact with the child's mother. I think we raised about $75,000. No amount of money is going to bring your child back. But maybe in a time like that, something helps. No politician, black or white. No celebrity, black or white. No athlete, black or white. No one did anything. No one did anything. A young black boy playing with toys in front of his house was shot in the head and killed. by two black men shooting at each other in the street. And no one cared. So, I don't know what people thought was going to happen when you defund the police and have less police. But the facts right now show it wasn't a good idea. Maybe we can focus on this now that COVID's over, right? It's all over. It's over. Everything's opening back up. Everything started opening back up on January 21st, so God for that.